Hello. We are
Hi.
예원 during the show. And then our section was really short. There was like nothing to really, but I just wanted to refresh your minds that you have if you have really paid attention to your previous classmates' presentations. So the most important thing, not really, but maybe the most important thing is for the standard form. So if you remember from other previous presentations that you all did, the circle standard form is this one. And if I would really briefly do all of a little bit of definition, just do a briefly definition. So the radius or the distance from the center and any all points fixed on any points is all the same. So that's a little bit of definition for the circle, and this is the equation. You have to know that it's x minus h squared plus and y minus k, which equals to r squared. Yes?
제곱이 없는 게 정상인 거예요.
Oh, nice catch. Oh, good. Okay, that was just for circle. And if we go to parabola, I think this one there. From this parabola, ellipse, and hyperbola, it divides into two parts, which is horizontal axis and vertical axis. Which horizontal is all about y, and vertical axis is always going to be all about the x. So a little bit of really brief summary for the parabola would be just, there will just going to be a focus, and there's always going to be a directrix in the bottom of this parabola, and then the distance between this one and this one is going to be all the same. So from the focus to directrix from any point is going to be all the same, and that's for the parabola. And this is the drawing for the horizontal axis, and the vertical axis will be like in here and also here. Okay, between those two. And then next is ellipse and hyperbola. So one thing that you should not get confused with is ellipse is you're going to add it together for this one and this one because they have the same equation, but only one difference is adding and subtracting. So don't get confused with it. So okay, and then for ellipse is going to be, I'm not really good at drawing, so it's going to be like this. So there's going to be also foci, and then this distance and this distance and this distance is going to be all constant. So all the two distance for the foci is going to be all constant. And hyperbola, if you listen to Yejun today, you're going to know about it. So I would really describe about the hyperbola. It just indicating that don't get messed up with the sign changes. And then the next step, how you're going to identify between, except for the equation, is going to be identifying the sections with discriminant. If I just use a little bit of Korean here, it's going to be called 판별식, which is b squared minus 4ac. With using this, we can identify these 4 different types of sections. Really, really interesting. So you're going to meet up with this kind of equations, or maybe this kind of equations, and then just get this A and B and C. With this 3, you're just going to know how this circles and ellipse and parabola and hyperbola will go on, with circle being the discriminant is going to be smaller, and then which there's going to be have a condition of b equals 0 and a equals c, and this one also has a condition like this. Also, it's smaller. And then for the parabola, this should be always, this is 0. If it's 0, it's hyperbola, and if it's larger than 0, it's going to be hyperbola. So that's how we could identify the discriminant. And there is also one point that we should really be indicated. Because yesterday when we were like doing some examples, we came into some obstacles, there were some examples that it did not have any xy term, because the xy term is, we need that was for the b value, but if there is no xy term, then how can we identify those? That's why we can do it just only with A or C. Just identifying with A or C, and then A equals C if it's circle, and then for ellipse, it has A and C same sign, but it's not equal, and then AC have opposite sign because they have.
Yeah, and I will only ask this part.
Okay, that's a great tip. Only this part, or just be indicated.
Yeah,
with
with
this
no
part.
xy term.
Yes. Okay. Then I'll pass on to Yeowon for examples.
Hello, I'm going to solve example 1, and we have to write this equation in standard form and figure out whether this equation is parabola, circle, ellipse, or hyperbola. Okay, so there's the equation, and first we have to organize x with x, y with y, numbers with number. So it's going to be like 16x squared minus 128x minus 25y squared. Oh yes, and we can send numbers to right side, so it's going to be like this. And now we're going to take out 16, 8, maybe. And now we can use perfect square. And then we can add 16 times 16, which is 256, and which is equal to 400. So we can rewrite this as like this. And because we have something to divide, we're going to divide x and y to 400. And
Becomes 1.
yes, becomes 1. And finally, this equation will be look like, da-da-da. And this is minus sign, so it's hyperbola. And if you listen Sinjin and Yejun's equation, you can easily draw this graph. Okay, so can you go down to number 1? Number 1? Oh no. This question number 1. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Like I said before, I'm going to organize x squared minus 6x plus 4y squared plus 16y equals 11. And then we are going to take out 4 from the y side, and it's going to be look like this. And now we're going to use perfect square. And then we're going to add 9. 4 times 4, 16. Which is equal to 36.
Yes.
And we can rewrite this as, 36. We have something to divide. 36 divided by 36, and this becomes 1. And yeah, divide is going to be 9. And because it's plus sign, it's ellipse. Yes, ellipse.
Ellipse.
Oh, should I also have to draw a graph?
No.
Okay. There. Finish.
Finish?
Yes. Oh, or Any volunteer to solve?
For number
Two. Too easy.
No, too easy.
Too easy. Doi, do you want to try?
Nope.
Oh, don't try. Yejun, do you want to try?
Sure.
Number 2.
Oh, sorry.
Negative. Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Mm. You can just start here. And what's the equation of these conics? Yep.
Bravo. Thank you, Yejun.
Okay.
Oh.
Now, Yewon did writing it like in standard form,
Mhm.
but now we are going to do it without writing it in standard form
Mhm.
and stating whether the graph is a parabola, circle, ellipse, or hyperbola.
Mm-hmm.
So here, as Serin said earlier, to actually solve this, you need the b squared minus 4ac
Mm-hmm.
to know if it's a parabola, circle, ellipse, hyperbola. So then, in the earlier so then up here, you will need like this thing to actually solve the
Mm-hmm.
problem. So then, if you can memorize this, then if we go down, then you can do this very easily, because first it was a squared. So where is a squared? Ax squared. Where? Oh yes. So it will be ax squared.
Mm-hmm.
And then for b, it was bxy. So what would it be?
Minus 3.
Yes. And then for c, it would be cy squared. So then what would be c?
1.
Yes. So then if we already found ABC, we can use this kind of equation. So then we put these numbers inside here, and then we get 7, minus 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then because this is less than 0, well, and this thing, if it's less than 0, then that means it would be a hyperbola.
Less than 0.
Ellipse.
Yep.
And then the rest of these equations would be the same. It will be a hyperbola, and then so you need those equations up there to solve it. And then question number 5.
So 5. I like to do it like in steps. So then first, I would find like the ABC thing.
Uh-huh.
So then first it would be ax squared. So then what would a be? 4.
Uh-huh.
And then for b, we need bxy. Do you see any xy?
No.
So then it would be 0.
Uh-huh.
And then for c, it would be cy squared. What is that?
6.
Yes. So then we found our ABC, right?
Yeah.
So then for my number 2 step, I would do the b squared minus 4ac.
Mm-hmm.
So then if we plug this in, what would it be?
0 minus 9 minus 96.
Yes. Minus 96.
Mhm.
And then if we plug, no. So, what do you think would it be? It's minus 96 of the.
아니 circle.
No.
아니지
It is an ellipse. Because
Yeah.
if you look here,
오.
remember the important thing. Here it, yes, it says, I mean, because b equals 0, so then just ellipse.
Yep.
Okay. Now number 6. Anybody want to try? Oh, very easy problem. Number 6.
보너스 포인트.
Oh.
A.
성민.
보너스 포인트.
Please answer the first question 6. Please.
Anybody number 6?
야, 서준.
Oh.
예.
Okay. Then what's your conclusion?
It will be 하이퍼볼라.
Okay.